So, we are back once again, and today we're going to be looking at a ranked game that I played the last time I streamed, which was a couple of days ago, I think. We're in the Gold League. I stream at twitch.tv/thedarkcalling. Wow, there goes the plug. And this game is interesting, or I thought I would share it with you. Not because I get a high amount of damage, but, you know, that is generally the motivation for sharing games like this on YouTube. But I want to more so illustrate just how similar random battles sometimes can feel to ranked battles, even at the perceived highest tier, which is obviously Gold League. Now, I think this battle was played around, I think, Gold 10, Gold 9, Gold 8, so still pretty low. You basically could consider it Silver League, but it is Gold, so that's what I'm going to consider it. We do have a Hargamo, Marceau, 2 Des Moines, Stalingrad, and a Goliath. So overall, a pretty strong team. 3 radars, 2 very potent TDs, which, you know, is a perfect combination for a very strong game. On the enemy team, they do have the Conqueror, the Worcester, the Minotaur, the Hindenburg, the Yoshino, Daring, and Yuyang, which again, some pretty potent ships, but not really of the caliber of something like a Hargamo or a Marceau, although the Daring could make me eat my words. So, like most Yamato games, and it doesn't matter if you're playing random battles, or it doesn't matter if you're even playing ranked battles, you still want to have that coverage over basically the entirety of the map. And the nice thing about ranked battles is that you basically don't have to actually move to have that coverage over basically every single cap in the game, no matter how far away they are. And, you know, usually when you're playing the Yamato, engaging with enemy BBs is, you know, fun to do. You can do it, you can engage in it, but ships like the Conqueror just make it so much easier to deal consistent damage and deal significant damage, because let's be honest, it's not the most armored ship, which, you know, lends itself to dealing or getting dealt a significant amount of damage. Now, you do see, if you're more eagle-eyed on the minimap, you'll see the Yoshino and the Minotaur pushing on our right-hand flank or their left-hand flank, and the Daring has popped up in A cap. Now, the thing that generally happens in A cap, at least when you have competent DD players, is that there tends to be a bit of a standoff on the rock in the middle of the island, and generally at that point radar comes into play, and whoever generally blinks first tends to lose in that scenario. Now at this point I'm just mainly focusing on the Conqueror. The Worcester is basically turned away alongside the Hindenburg, and with the Daring snugly behind that island, the Conqueror is the only real ship that I have a significant chance of dealing a significant amount of damage to, which I tend to do. We're already up to 27,000 damage, which, you know, is nice, but I'd always like it to be a little bit higher. Again, we are 3 minutes into the game, and this Conqueror is basically behaving like a statue. So there's no better time to punish that. Now, at this point, you'll notice something strange happened. Our Hargamo somehow managed to get torped by a Daring. Now, I did say ranked battles were, you know, more fun and more competitive. Sometimes. Not always. Sometimes. Stuff like this just happens, and you know, you just have to push it very hard out of your mind and just get on with the game and hope you can actually affect things. That being said though, we are making really good progress on that Conqueror. We have it down to about 50k, but again, it does have that super heal, which will be healing a significant amount. So we switch focus and we get a very nice hit. 1 Citadel, which is nice to have at about 20 kilometers, but again, it'd always be nice to have more, wouldn't it? Now on the other side of the map, you'll see something a little bit strange. You'll see the Des Moines are both doubled up on each other, which is something I wouldn't really recommend. Again, even if they are both forced to go that side of the map, they do have double radars, which means the coverage they could be surviving or could be putting out could be a lot more significant, even if they're a little bit more separated. Now there could be an argument that, you know, did you see me one-shot that Hindenburg? Yeah, that was beautiful. Anyways, you could make an argument that, again, separating themselves out, you know, opens himself up to getting spammed by a Minotaur and a Yoshino. And that could be a fine argument too. But again, it is a little bit of a waste of a very, very potent radar. Now, sadly, I think I got this Stalingrad killed potentially. I hope not, but my memory is a little bit foggy. I don't believe he goes down as a direct result of that, but I think my blockage played a little bit of a role in him getting basically one shot. That being said, we are going to push not into A, but alongside A. At this point, we have the Marceau crossing over from C because he's basically done his job. He's not going to push into a Minotaur and a Yoshino. That's just plain suicide. Even if he does have the upper hand on the enemy Yu-Yang on that other side of the map, it's just not worth the risk. Even if he does have the back of the two Des Moines, their rate of fire isn't significant enough to really counteract something like a Minotaur. He'll be dead before he can blink. That being said though, he does cross over, which allows us to play a little bit more proactively. If you look on our left hand flank, you'll see the Goliath recognizes this and he is going to push that left hand flank, and I'm going to support him. You'll see the only real ships they have on that left hand flank are the Worcester and the Conqueror, which I've done significant damage to. He has used a heal, but he is down to 50k, which is that's only 3 salvos away from basically death in my book. That being said though, one thing you have to be very focused of at every single point in the game is where is the enemy DD. That was a horrific shot, oh my god. Anyways, block that from your memory. The one thing you have to be very potent of at every point in the game is where is the enemy DDs. They still have 2, we have 1, and boom, we're detected. But it's the Worcester, not the Daring. So in the back of your mind, you should be constantly thinking about where is that Daring? What's he doing? Am I going to get torpedoed almost immediately? From like maybe this vector or maybe this vector? And you slowly eliminate those possibilities in your head because, well, we have the Marceau here, so we can't really cross torp here because the Marceau would pick them up or spot them, and that allows us to cross this area pretty happily. Obviously we spot the smoke, which means the Daring's right there, and it's not the Worcester because the smoke landed behind him. We do get a pretty decent salvo on the Worcester. Now at this point we see the torpedoes coming out, and I would be happy to keep pushing this flank if this didn't happen. Yeah, so at that point, the Goliath calls us. I don't even know if I can say that first word without getting like demonetized or something. Losers, and at this point, I just decide to bail because me pushing into a Worcester, a Daring, and a Conqueror is basically a surefire way to just light me up like a Christmas tree, and yeah, it's not a good thing. Main mistake there is the Goliath. Maybe pushing a little bit too hard. Again, there's no way I could have got to that flank and backed him up sooner. I did put about 15-17k into the Worcester, which is a decent salvo, but again, nowhere near enough to actually take him down, which meant that the Goliath suffered a very, very, very bad ending. Although, all that being said, we do have the advantage in terms of caps. We are down on a ship, but it isn't the end of the world. Now at this point, the Yu-Yang basically gets spotted for the first time and is allowed to flank both the Des Moines, which puts them in a very, very precarious situation. Because eventually we're going to get boxed in. Again, the Yoshino and the Minotaur. Wait, is this actually going to deal damage? Decent salvo. Eventually, those Des Moines are going to get boxed in. And our Stalingrad is deciding. I think he's deciding to make a tribute to the enemy team by pushing into A cap when it's already contest, or when we already have control of it, with the Marceau, and forfeiting his life. A thing of beauty. That being said, the only realistic shots I have here, and the only really realistic chance I have of dealing out consistent damage, is targeting things like the Conqueror, which is basically easy to predict. We do get 2 citadels, do about 40k, which is nice. Would have been nicer to get the kill. Really would have swung the game kind of back and made it a lot more even, but unfortunately that isn't to be the case. And this is the exact scenario that I wanted to avoid by turning around when our Goliath died earlier on in the game. The last thing I want is being continually focused by those like little bits of HE damage consistently coming from things like the Worcester, things like the Daring, that are that can really very quickly become a serious problem. Now at this point I was going to fire an insurance salvo if the Marceau didn't get that kill, but seeing as he did, I saved it and prepared it for a much juicier target, shall we say. Something like a Conqueror. And I know at this point with 17k left on the Conqueror, one pretty good salvo can basically one-shot him. So that's what I'm hoping here. Unfortunately my aim's a little bit off and we don't manage to get the kill, which again is a little bit more unfortunate. Now at this point I think people have lost all semblance of what's happening in the game, because our Marceau gives up ACAP, whether it be because of the Worcester's radar or if he felt that he needed to make a play in the game. He did get the kill on the Ishino, but again we did have to forfeit ACAPs quite significantly when we did have the advantage on this side of the map. So again, not the best to play. And at this point the Des Moines are split up, they're isolated, the game is in a hell of a state. We've lost basically all semblance of cap control, and the worst scenario that I wanted to have happen is happening. I'm basically being focused by that little ticky bit of HE spam, permafires, nothing I can do. And at this point we're going full on save the star mode in the hopes of, well, saving a star. Now I don't remember if I do or not in this game, but again, it doesn't really matter. I think this serves as a good reminder that just dealing damage isn't enough to win games. You need much more, many more components in order to make a significant impact on any set game. Now you could look at it and say, well, he just spammed Conquer all game with AP and really didn't affect all that much, which is maybe a fair criticism. I would argue that I killed the Hindenburg 100-0, but again, it's definitely a fair criticism. And, you know, got the enemy Conquer to boost my ego a little bit by saying I got nice shots, which is always nice. But with that being said, we weren't able to carry our team, but maybe the next game will be different. Again, aiming is but one aspect of being a good player. There's many more, but I won't bore you with that right now as I get the high caliber. But until next time, I'll see you all in the next one. Oh, and we lose this game, unless, like, in case you were wondering. Okay. GG.